Welcome to this free immigration help channel. In this video we will talk about submitting your case without the initial supporting evidence and then submitting the evidence later. So you file the application first and then submit the evidence later. The reason why I'm doing this video is because I got actually quite a lot of questions. As some of you know, if you're subscribed to this channel, I try to do every other day, sometimes every day. I go through all of your comments, I answer them, and the videos are called Answering Your Immigration Questions, and they go by volume. I do receive quite a few questions here and there about submitting the application and then submitting the supporting evidence. But especially recently, I had a pretty good question. I don't remember from who, but it was about, basically I was answering the question and I was saying how it is important to, when you initially submit the case, make sure that you submit it as strong as possible, meaning that you submit all of the supporting documentation together with the application, basically everything, the full package. And the person asked me in the follow-up comment, basically, what does it mean to submit the strongest case and why is it important? So in this video, I will give you the reasons why it's not a good idea to submit the application without the supporting evidence, with the idea to submit the supporting evidence later. And also I will give you one reason where it is justifiable to do just that. Now, it can be done on pretty much any application from USCIS that is out there, whether it is, for example, I-130, petition for alien relative. A lot of times you will see people, a lot of times you will have attorney recommending people to submit the application first and then submit the evidence later. A lot of times it is done with the asylum applications. So there's a whole range of petitions, forms, applications that you can do that. And most of the times it's the applications that require some kind of supporting evidence to follow along with that package. So let's start with the reasons why you shouldn't do it. Again, I'm not an immigration attorney. This is not a legal advice. All of the information that I provide are from government sources like USCIS, Department of State. This particular video is more based on the experience, my experience, seeing the cases, working with the cases, seeing what happens whenever the evidence is submitted later. So let's start with the reason number one. The reason number one, you don't want to do that. You don't want to submit the evidence after the fact, afterwards, after you have submitted the application, after you have received a request from USCIS, is the time. It's the time. This kind of stuff creates some serious delays, let's just say it. And it really, at this point, it doesn't even matter anymore whether you submit the application online, which is usually much faster than submitting by mail, or by mail. Because now, when you're submitting the application, yes, the USCIS, they receive the application, they accept it, but now you're opening the door for USCIS to go into your application, see that it is incomplete, and then send you the notice saying, hey, we need additional evidence, this is what's missing, this is what's missing. So now, basically, you're waiting for USCIS to review your case, to make the determination that there is not enough evidence or there is no evidence at all, send you the request by mail, obviously. You getting the request, you sending them obviously now by mail because, well, already, you missed the chance to do it online, so now you have to send it by mail. They get it in their PO box, open it up, review it. It's just unnecessary back and forth. So you do sacrifice quite a lot of time, way more time than you would have, instead of submitting the application by itself without the evidence. Instead, you would have taken maybe 2-3 weeks to collect that evidence and then send it all in one package. You waste way more time sending it by itself. All right. The reason number two, money. Money. Obviously, whenever it comes to mailing, yes, you will have expense. It's not going to be a lot, $10, $20 for mailing. This is not a big deal. The more serious issue with this kind of stuff, and whenever it comes to money, happens whenever you are working with an immigration attorney. And that's one of the reasons why you will see in a lot of cases, attorneys, they encourage their clients, and that's not a good attorneys. That's one of the things that you want to look out for. They encourage their clients to submit the application without the additional evidence. And trust me, I personally work with an attorney. When was it? 15 years ago, whenever I was going through my immigration process. And that attorney told me to just go ahead, file it. And I was like, why? I have everything. It's not like I have it all. Here it is. It's in a, oh no, let's just send the application. Let's just send the application. Why? Well, because you're not just paying $10, $15 for a mailing. Now you're also paying for this attorney's time to go ahead and mail, and that racks up. And obviously, you know, if attorney can get more money out of you, that's a benefit for them. And I'm not saying that all of the attorneys do that, but here's a kind of determining factor for you to see whether your attorney is a good attorney or not a good attorney. If they are encouraging you and there is no good reason to file the application by itself without evidence, without the good reason, they're not a good attorney. The good attorney will always tell you, make the package as strong as possible. We have time, take some extra time, make the package as strong as possible with all the supporting evidence, and then we will send it. This will always be the case, except this one reason that I will tell you when you should be filing the application without the evidence. All right, so we got time, we got money, especially if you're working with an attorney. Number 3 is the possibility of the mix-up. Whenever you're sending just the application, right? Obviously, like I said, in the first reason, with the delays, with the time, USCIS, they have to go into the application, they have to review it, they have to send you the notice. Now you're sending all your evidence separately. Once USCIS receives that evidence, they have to open up the package, they have to make the determination. What is this evidence for? Which case it is for? And yes, of course, we always do provide, or at least you should, all your case information in the cover letter whenever you're sending evidence separately, saying, hey, this is the evidence for this case that has been requested, all of that information, right? But nevertheless, with all the paperwork, with all the bureaucracy that happens within these government organizations, you opening up a door for someone to not pay very good attention. And I'm not saying that people do that. It's really, you know, we don't do mistakes like this on purpose. You have to understand that. These mistakes happen because you sit there all day for 8 hours, 5 days a week, looking at the papers, all of these numbers, all of these cases, right? The chance for a mix-up, and you see it quite a lot, mistakes in the names, mistakes in some kind of numbers, you know, date of birth, whatever, unnecessary delays just because the case was misplaced. You see that stuff all the time. That stuff is real, that stuff happens. And when you do stuff like send the application separately and then send the evidence later, you open up even more doors for possibilities for someone who's reviewing that stuff to make a mistake and put that evidence somewhere else, or not put it into the case at all, and then you definitely don't want to deal with any of this. All right, let's move on to the number 4 now. Additional questions. And that especially comes whenever you have, for example, stuff like asylum applications. That is definitely you going to have these questions. If you're submitting the application first and then the supporting evidence later, you have the asylum interview that is coming up. So once you go to that asylum interview, you are opening up that door for the immigration officer to ask you, okay, so I see that you have submitted the application and then 2 months later you submitted the supporting evidence. Why? Okay, and to you right now it might seem like, well, okay, you know, there can be a lot of reasons. For example, I didn't have the supporting evidence on me, so I was waiting until I get it, you know, all the sort of reasons that might seem good to you. But here is the thing whenever it comes to asylum. Asylum, by the definition, you are running away from the country where you came from. You cannot go back. You are here in the United States. You are safe here. you're being persecuted back there, you can't go back there. So if you don't have the evidence right here, right now with you, if you're running away from the country, then how can you obtain that supporting evidence from that? Because think about this, the evidence that we are talking about, I mean, it can be, medical statements, police reports, it can be even just some kind of like educational, some certificates, whatever, work history, bank accounts maybe from that country. Now, obviously, some of that stuff can be obtained online, but USCIS, they do understand that a lot of that stuff cannot be obtained online, and if you have that channel with that country getting the documents back and forth, well, maybe your life isn't in that much threat if you can have a direct communication with someone from that country and you can get the documents back and forth without any problems. You see, they look at stuff like this, and when you send the application separately and then the evidence, they get all of these ideas in their hand, and then they ask questions like this. And the goal with these interviews is that you want to do everything to avoid questions like this. That's why you want to file everything on time. That's why you want to file everything together. That's why you want to file everything correctly. All right? Especially whenever it comes to asylum applications. But let's move on to the very last reason that I wanted to mention here, and that's the potential for denial. Now, it happens in very, very rare cases where USCIS, they receive the case and it doesn't have the evidence, and then they, without sending you the request for evidence, they send you a denial. It happens. I've seen it happen. I've seen some cases where it happened. It's very, very, very rare. All right. Most of the times they just respond with an initial request for the evidence, but it still opens up a potential for denial, and you don't want to deal with denials. Denials, they create problems. It's not the end of the world. You can always submit requests to reconsider. You can always appeal. You can always move the case to an immigration court. But all of that stuff creates additional steps that, honestly, there's already enough steps in the immigration process. You don't want to deal with these steps. Okay, so hopefully I made it understandable in this video why you want to submit the case as strong as possible. All the evidence, everything that you wanted to initially submit, first of all, everything that is required by USCIS, and also everything that you think might be helpful for USCIS to make a determination on your case, all right? When is it a good idea to submit the application? Without the supporting evidence, and that can be the only reason. If the supporting evidence is just not available right now, if this just are the circumstances, it's not available right now, and the deadline for submitting the application is coming up. Now, a lot of times, most of the times, you will not be in the situation like this. If you have stayed on top of, if you did your research, if you looked at USCIS, Department of State, if you educated yourself, you're not going to be in the situation like this. Because a lot of times, even with asylum, you can file for asylum really whenever you want, 2 years, 3 years down the road in the United States. You can. There is nothing that says you cannot apply for asylum. You're going to have some serious questions at the interview, and the chances of you being denied, they are climbing higher and higher the longer you wait. It's recommended to apply for asylum within 6 months of entering the United States. But honestly, if you are planning to apply for asylum, I would recommend doing it as soon as possible. As soon as you can get together all the supporting evidence to file application, whether it's 2 weeks, a month after you enter in the United States. But again, if you did your research, then you would already know that, okay, I have 6 months, I have all this time, plenty of time to put together all the evidence that is needed. So let me know in the comments below if you have any questions. I will be happy to address them. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I do probably tomorrow is going to be my next one, or maybe later on today I will be able to go through some of the comments that I received in the past couple of days and answer them. in the videos that I make answering your immigration questions, which go by volume. I think right now we are on volume 33, so the next one is going to be volume 34. But always, thank you very much for watching. Always appreciate your time. God bless, and I'll see you in the next video.